my brother's keeper. I'm my sister's guide. Standing here together with nothing left to hide. We lift each other up when the world feels torn apart. We're keepers of the flame. We're the healers of the heart.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to My Other's Keeper.
Hi.
And here's our friend Krystal. Yay! I always feel like Grover when I do that. Yay! That's how he used to. Never mind. I'm old. It's a thing. Yeah. So, how you doing, Krystal?
Pretty good.
You don't sound convinced.
Well, it's minus.
It's
yuck.
bloody cold, is what it is. Yeah. It's definitely minus yuck.
Actually, it did warm up today. It got up to about minus 28 Celsius.
Yes, so it got up to minus yuck from minus. Yeah, that's the official temperature rating around here. Minus to yuck, you know, and just above that is stupid cold. So yeah.
Well, this morning when I woke up at 2 o'clock, I think it was about minus 35 with a wind chill of about minus 47.
Ooh, honey.
Yeah. It's like, I'm calling in today. I ain't going nowhere. Body hurts too much on that.
No, that's for sure. Oh, man. Whoops. Yeah,
But the good part is my place is nice and toasty and warm. And I don't have to have the taps running.
Yeah.
Yay!
For those people who don't know, when you live in a home that does not have great insulation around the plumbing, and it gets cold the way it does up as north as we are, or high in the mountains or wherever, where it gets really cold, you have to keep the liquid running through the taps in order to keep it from freezing solid and exploding because water expands. So, hey, Teresa, nice to see you.
It at least helps with the freezing. There's still times when it can freeze, even if you are still running taps, but it's less likely.
Yes, yeah.
And
you're about 70% less likely. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's with heat tape on the pipes.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. And Teresa just did a live and she was talking about puppies and how the animals just are, like, emotional support animals are so important for so many people. There are some people who are just totally no animals whatsoever, but emotional support animals for certain people are absolute healing, and that's what she was talking about today. So here we go. There is Patches up on.
There's mine.
There's Patches up
on her brand new house.
Yes.
So I figure I get a new place. She should get a new place.
That's only fair. Absolutely. Yep. Yes, pups are unconditional love. Same with kitty. Well, kitties are more like, yeah, okay, I'll let you serve me here too. So, yeah.
Oh, she has been amazing since I moved.
She really has, yeah.
She stays with me. She wasn't too thrilled being stuck in the bathroom with me when I had a shower today earlier. But
okay.
I'm still learning. At the last apartment that I lived in before I moved to this community, I had to keep the door shut, or it would or the heat would set the fire alarms off.
That's right.
And when your fire alarms are hardwired, you don't want them going off.
You don't. Yeah, when they're wired into alert emergency services, that would be a bad thing to have every time you have a shower, have the firefighters call.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I mean,
Good thing
firefighters are lovely and all, but still, no, thank you.
not when you're not got nothing on.
That's right. Not when you're naked, and that's just not very fun.
And when you're in a
So,
small community like I'm in, and you actually
just what you need.
know, some of the firefighters personally.
Well, especially since you work at a store and everybody shops at that store,
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll do it too.
So,
So yes.
but yeah, it's been interesting to see the change in her as
Mhm.
we've moved.
Mhm.
Um, the last week or two that I was at my trailer,
Mhm.
it was just her and I. And so she
Mm.
kind of went around still looking for Leo, but I knew that would probably change once we moved. She doesn't expect him to be here because he's not ever been here.
Right. Right.
And
Now you're gonna have to tell some people who is Leo.
Leo was my 4.5-year-old other support cat.
He was
Um,
the other redhead in her life, is what she's saying.
yes, he was an orange tabby.
Heart rag doll, so a little bigger than most.
Yep.
Owly, big, redhead. See, I just replaced Leo. That's really all I did. So
Well,
yeah.
and you were here for that first week too, so
I was there for first week. Yes, absolutely.
and
Yep,
Patches actually got to kind of know you, and
a little
even though
bit.
she was still transitioning, so
Yeah.
do you blame her
No,
though?
no,
Brand
not
new
at all.
area.
Not at all. I mean, there's strange person in her space with her human, and now there's space. So yeah, that just
Yeah.
yeah. I felt bad for Patches, honestly. As she was hissing at me, she was walking away. She wasn't in attack mode, she was in fear mode. And I recognized that. Absolutely.
I
So
had actually brought Patches over when I brought the second load over
yeah.
to
Hey
the
Barb.
apartment. And you and your husband arrived, and she was still checking out the place. And I didn't think of it at the time, but I just let you guys come in. I wasn't holding her and introduced you to her
Right.
when
Yep.
you came in. So
Right.
she sees this guy of all things come in,
Hi
this
Daniel.
tall guy,
Oh, for
and
sure.
she was in the washroom, and that was the first place he went, and ended up locking her in there with him. When she came out, next thing I know, I'm looking to trying to find where these meows were coming from,
Yeah, for sure.
these scared meows, and she was up on the top of the cupboards in the kitchen, cowering in the corner.
Right. Like right in the farthest possible corner. Oh, I felt so bad for her. It was funny, but I felt bad for her
And then she ended
at
up
the same
jumping
time.
down and going onto the top of the fridge, just about trying to climb behind the fridge.
Yeah, that was one spooked kitty. Let me tell you, she was not a happy girl.
And she didn't
No.
come down for quite a while. Eventually, she did come down.
Yeah.
And so when we were ready to head back over to the trailer, I put her into her carrier and took her over and left her at the trailer until everything was moved on the Sunday. And that
Yeah.
was on the Saturday morning that was all
Yeah.
going on. So yeah, it's been an interesting, what, half a month? 18 days out of the month?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. because you moved right at the beginning of February. So, yeah,
Yeah, I started moving on the 31st.
yeah.
And
Oh, I didn't
oh,
want that to
those,
show up quite right
no,
away. Yep, sorry.
no, we don't want those pictures yet. Um,
But if you look in the description of this video, down at the bottom there, you will see a link to Krystal's own YouTube channel, and she has a video of saying goodbye to her old space. So once you're
yes.
finished here, once you know the history and all of that stuff, that video will make so much sense. And it is a beautiful video. Oh, love it. So yeah. Anyways, I interrupted. My bad.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
So it's been a whirlwind of moving, and because it was only the last week of pretty much the last week of January
Hmm.
that I found out that yes, I had a possession date, I could move, I had a buyer for the trailer, and it all seemed to snowball really fast at the end.
There was a whole
And
time to
I
hurry up and wait, and then it was just hurry up, hurry up, hurry up.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Thankfully, God provided manpower
Boy power.
and
Yep.
yeah, young manpower, I guess.
Young manpower. Yes.
Um, with 6 strapping youth.
Big boy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, she
This,
definitely had angels watching over her for sure. Not to mention her commander. Yes, absolutely. Yep.
yes. But it just everything fell together. I had originally thought that okay, get possession. I start moving things over, and then a week later, have people come in and help with the final move. That didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
So I was put out of my element almost right away in that regard. And the reason that is because one of the guys that I reached out to is one that he's helped me so many times. He's helped me, especially when I needed snow removed. He would come over and bring a snowblower over, sometimes walking the 3 or 4 blocks from his place to my trailer with the
Mm-hmm.
snowblower, blowing as he went,
Mm-hmm.
and would blow out my yard, and he helped with trees and other things through the years, and it was just I wanted to make sure that I had him there because he's been kind of one of my rocks. And I actually knew them before I moved to this community. We both lived in the small city that I lived in before this.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it was neat to have him come. And I had asked for the 8th,
Mm-hmm.
which was a Saturday.
Yeah.
And he let me know that he was working that weekend, but he could help either the 3rd or the 4th. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh crap, that's fast. 'Cause I get keys on the 31st of January, and he's willing to come the 3rd or the 4th. And I'm like, okay, let's make it work. So
Exactly.
then I reached out to a lady that had said to let her know and she would get a bunch of people together. And I got a hold of her. Well, I text her, and I ended up getting a message on her text from her son saying that she had fallen ill and was in hospital and couldn't help. And I'm like, oh crap, now where do I go?
Yep.
And the only people that I could think of after that was a couple who I was part of a small group with. And I think when I first moved here, there was a bunch of us that would get together. There was 3 or 4, no, 2 or 3 couples, like married couples, pre-kids, and then a handful of us singles. And we would always get together and just hang out and do whatever, go for meals on Sunday or what have you. And so I reached out to this one couple that had ended up being a small group leader of mine, and she knows and knew about my anxiety and how bad it was and everything. And I know her two boys. I've known them since they were little. She now has 5 kids. And the two oldest boys are 16 and 14, I think.
I think so, yeah.
And because I know the oldest one just got his license.
Yep.
For just getting his license, he's pretty good at backing up a trailer.
He was there.
But
They're on a farm.
exactly, he's also
Chances
a
are
farm
it's not
boy,
the first
so
time he's done it.
he's probably backed the train or the semis
Grain
up.
trucks and yeah.
Yeah. But I reached out to her and I said, "Can I get you guys to help?" Thinking at least that's a couple more guys.
Yeah.
And she asked me, she said, "What about, would you like me to reach out to this other couple who is also part of that group who has 4 boys?" And I said, "Sure, you can see if they'll come." And both families are homeschooled. So it didn't matter that it was on a Monday morning.
It was their phys ed class. That's what we decided.
Yeah. And so I had 6 teenage boys, big teenage boys, coming to help, and they were incredible. Before we started in the morning, I waited till everybody was there, and then I said, "Okay, I need to explain this." And I told them, I said, "I suffer anxiety, so there's going to be things probably today that I'm going to say or do that might seem strange. Please just kind of go with it." And just, if I say we need to slow down, then we need to slow down, and we'll do it. And the guy who's been a support, he's also one of the conservation officers in our province and has a lot of dealings with youth, from teaching firearm safety to fishing safety and hunting safety and that. And he stepped up after I had talked, and he said to the guys, he says, "This is Krystal's move. We need to make sure that it is Krystal's move. And that that we listen to her about how things are going, and it's going to be good." And we ended up running into the very first hiccup, literally seconds into to starting the move. The first thing that I wanted to get put, because we needed we had to kind of systematically move things out of different rooms. And so the first room that we needed to move things out was the room that I called my fitness room. It had a door that connected to the bathroom, and I needed to have patches in the bathroom. And then I needed to be able to move her into that fitness room once it was emptied, so that she could have more space, and yet people could use the washroom if they needed to. And so the first thing to come out of the fitness room, of course, was my treadmill. I built the treadmill in the room. Problem number 1. It would not come out. the door. Because the doors in my trailer, it's an older trailer, were very narrow.
Now, I'm a big girl, but I'm not that big. I would have to walk down the hallway of her trailer with my arms right beside myself. Like,
I
I
did
can walk
too.
down a normal hallway, your typical 3 foot wide hallway, no problem.
Yeah.
But in that hallway, I would say it was easily 6 to 8 inches narrow.
Yeah. There was a lot of times I was kind of half sideways as I would walk down the hall
Yeah.
too. So I get it. But we get this problem, and I'm like, well, let's take the door off. And then we had to try and figure out what we could use to take the door off because all my tools had already been taken over.
Yep.
And because we had emptied the shop on the weekend when Kim
Mhm.
and her husband were up. And oh my goodness. So, of course, I'm stressing about this. And so, thankfully, I'm just going to call him T. Thankfully, he had tools in his van.
He was a handy guy to have around, let me tell you.
So,
Oh,
between
yeah.
him and having all of these farmers with tools in their truck and 15 passenger van and
Oh,
what have
yeah.
you, we were able to finally get the door off, and they were able to get the treadmill out without having to take the treadmill apart because
Or
it's
the trailer apart. Yeah. Yeah.
and so we finally got that out, and then things just started happening and rolling quite quickly, and I kind of got to the point where I didn't know where to stand. I was kind of trying to say, okay, guys, just work at getting everything taken out. And then I had forgot that I hadn't cleared off some shelving in my laundry room in the closet.
Before we
And
continue with that, let's roll back a couple years because I know you wanted people to know why you moved and all that. So before we get into the process of what we did, let's go back to the first time you thought you would be moving. And that
oh
was
boy,
more than a month ago.
that was more than a month ago. That was more than a year ago. Um, a lot of you on the channel know me from needing a meeting. Met me from there. And that was about a year ago that I met a bunch of you through needing a meeting. And at that point, I was stressing out because housing authority was, in my opinion, was going extremely slow and should be going a lot faster and hadn't done things that I thought they should have done, and not realizing that it actually is a longer process than just putting in your application and finding out within a month.
Mm-hmm.
Technically,
Oh,
I still think that they should be able to cut some of the time off of their process.
unfortunately, there were a lot of movements being done that we had no idea were happening.
Yeah,
And that was something that they weren't allowed to tell us what was going on.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And because I have an emotion, at that point I had two emotional support animals, and this community um this community has never had emotional support animals in any of their buildings.
Yeah.
They have always said absolutely no animals, period.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I'm fighting a system that I know I have a right to have.
Hmm.
And they're saying, well, no, we don't want animals in any of our buildings. So I was fighting that as well as a few other things, and my age, and the building that I wanted to go into was predominantly for 55 and over. And I'm definitely not 55.
She's younger than me, and I'm not 55 yet. My husband will be 55 soon. So I can't believe the man's going to be 55. Anyway, sorry. You were
That's
saying?
okay. So it was a process, but I had actually
Sorry. That was to this comment. I love you, Indigo. Sorry, you were saying?
That's okay. So what you guys were seeing was me pushing the final push to get the ball rolling. Now, before I moved to the community I'm in, I felt God's leading for me to move. And that was a year before I moved. And at that point, I had no idea where I was moving to. I knew I was moving away from the city I was in. This time it was, I guess it was the fall of 2021? No, 2022.
So just like, yeah, 3-ish years ago. Okay.
About 3.5 years ago.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask you, when you say you felt God's leading, what on earth does that look like to you? Because there's going to be people who watch this who will have heard people say, well, God told me this, God told me that. Sometimes the person they're hearing from is legit hearing from God, and some people are just saying it to make an excuse for what they want. But you, well, and that's the thing is, I know for you that's not the case. So
Yeah.
what does it look like for you when you say God is leading you to do something?
I guess part of it comes from a strong foundation and a strong following of God as my Lord and Savior.
Hmm.
And for me, I'd say God talks to me,
Hmm.
and sometimes it's audible, like you and me talking, and there's nobody around, which some people may say is a hallucination, but
We call
no,
that hallucinations in the biz.
but no, it's, I don't know how to describe it when you hear somebody talking, but because I've become close to God, I know when it's him talking to me and when it's just my own thoughts. Most of the time it's just kind of an impression on my heart. Yes, Masha, you're right. You
Nisha's
just know.
exactly right. You just know. Yep.
It's and for someone who's never had it happen, it's hard to understand. Um, it's like I used to have pastors, I used to ask them all the time, how do you know if you're a Christian? And they would just tell me, you just know. And I never understood that until I did give my life to God.
Hmm.
And then I knew.
Exactly. And that's, how do you know if you're in love? You just know, right? And that's like Indigo's talking about her spirit guides and higher self. Sometimes it can be an audible voice.
Yeah.
For me, I have had audible hallucinations, but they're not saying anything that makes any sense. They're not saying anything that is beneficial.
Mhm.
When you are hearing God's voice, it'll make sense. It may not, you may not understand why it makes sense, but it does.
Yeah.
It will be something beneficial, or at least it won't be something tearing you down. Let's put it that way, right?
And it's different than hearing voices.
It is, yeah.
And yes, I've heard voices.
Me too.
I'll agree to that one, but
Yeah. I'm on medication for that. It doesn't happen anymore.
I don't know. I kind of like the chatter that goes on in my head sometimes.
That's another story for a different day.
Yeah. But no, I was standing in my backyard at my trailer doing some of the fall cleanup, and I have AstroTurf.
Mm,
And for anyone who doesn't know what AstroTurf is, it's fake grass.
yep.
A lot of like baseball and football fields will have AstroTurf. Um, equestrian centers will often have it. Um, it's a lot easier to maintain, and
Hmm.
because we are in a bald ass prairie community where yes,
Yep.
tumbleweeds do exist.
They roll across my highway on the regular basis. Yep, that's for sure.
The first time I moved down was down in this area was the first time I actually saw tumbleweeds going. And I just had to laugh because I had never experienced that living up north, growing up north. But I ended up putting the AstroTurf in because the grass grew at different lengths. It had some grass that would grow really fast, and then there was a whole bunch of weeds, and just it was just hard to maintain, and I didn't like it
No,
because
and
literally
you're right.
within a
Bald
week,
is beautiful. That's.
yeah.
Oh wait. Oh, okay.
You got more than me.
Yeah, I guess.
But I had just, and I had, the funny thing is, I had seen another yard in town with the AstroTurf, and it looked funny because in the fall, everything's like brown, or halfway through the summer, everything's brown, and this is just beautiful green. And
My
I
brother
always,
and sister-in-law were renting a place, and they had artificial grass. So yeah, they didn't have to mow it at all, but it did look
you
funny
just,
in the winter and the spring. Yep.
you just have to vacuum it. And so that's what I was doing that fall, was vacuuming up the leaves and the small apples from my apple tree. I had a ornamental crabapple.
Hmm.
It was just mainly a flowering one and had little tiny fruit that
Yeah.
couldn't be used.
Oh.
And so I was
Birdberry.
vacuuming that stuff up and just feeling more and more discouraged about how fast it had gotten to the point in the spring, summer where I didn't want to do anything in the yard and was having troubles pushing myself to do even the basics, like even to look after my garden, which I prided
Hmm.
myself in.
Yeah.
I built that, I did the landscaping around my trailer,
Hmm.
and 7 good sized garden boxes
Huge. Yes.
that were, all of them were at least 20 inches above ground, and the dirt in them went literally from ground all the way up to 20 inches. I had one box or two boxes
Mhm.
that I had put up to 30 inches. I was eventually going to put all of them up to 30 inches, but that didn't end up happening. um, but it was my pride and joy, and I loved being outside in the summer. It really helped. But by that fall, I was so discouraged because I couldn't do it anymore. I was
Mhm.
hurting, and the pain levels were just getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
And I just kind of found myself saying, God, I don't know what to do. And that was when I kind of heard him say, well, maybe it's time to move. Sorry, color change on my.
Yep.
So I kind of started to look at what was available. And around here, a very small apartment, sometimes even just one bedroom,
Mhm.
can go for over $1,000 a month. And that's not including anything.
Yeah.
And I knew I couldn't afford it. And so I kind of thought, well, Housing Authority in Saskatchewan offers housing for those who can't afford regular housing. So what they do is they do 30% of your gross income.
And sometimes that income is pretty gross.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
And so they base it off of that and off of your hourly wage.
Mhm. Hey, Sam.
And so I thought, well, I can try and apply for that. And I had also, I don't know how I had heard about it, but I had also heard about the fact that they will allow emotional support animals.
Mhm.
Now, most people look at cats and think, yeah, emotional support animals, yeah, right. There's actually places that are starting to accept them as emotional support animals outside of the home. And actually public places where you can take your emotional support cats and rabbits is another one
Mhm. Mhm.
that can go into places just like the dogs would. And horses is another one that is being
Mhm.
accepted. Because horses, they're actually training some horses to, like miniature horses, to lead the blind.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep.
Because they live longer than a dog.
They do. They're also a little bit more hardy. Like those legs and feet are nice and strong. So if they
Yeah.
need to push somebody out of the way, they're gone. They're out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had the two cats. I had just gotten Leo that spring,
Mhm.
or in June that year. And so I wasn't sure what was going to happen there because I had kind of heard that it was one emotional support animal. And I'm going, yeah, but I got two, and I'm not giving one up.
That's not how it started out. That is not how it started
Okay,
out.
3.5 years ago,
Okay.
yes, there was no way I was
Okay.
giving them up. There was
Okay.
no way I could give them up. And so I went and I got the paperwork to start filling out to apply for government assisted housing and filling out the forms for getting emotional support animals. So I'm looking at the paperwork, and I could easily get somebody to do references for me. That part was no problem, like for the emotional support animals.
Mhm.
I ran into a problem when it said psychologist or psychiatrist.
Mhm.
And I asked my psychiatrist, and she would not fill out the paperwork. It's not in her scope,
Nope.
and it's not in her expertise. And some psychologists and psychiatrists won't fill out those forms, and some will.
Mhm.
And there's literally places online that you can contact, and they have licensed psychiatrists and psychologists that will like meet with you via Skype or whatever for one session or 2 sessions, and then they'll fill out the paperwork and be done with it.
I didn't know that. Okay.
That's to get the letters that
Okay.
the places need. Thankfully, when I did the paperwork for last year, my medical doctor was able to fill out to get the certification letters.
Mhm.
And I had asked housing authority if it had to be a psychiatrist or psychologist, or if it could be a social worker / counselor. And they said, no, it couldn't be a counselor. It had to be someone who, yeah, you got to pay almost $200 for an hour session.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew I couldn't afford that. And it seemed like, even though I had felt God saying to me that start to prepare for a move and everything, it felt like one door after another was getting slammed in my face. At that point, I was able to actually take a look at one of the apartments in this building. It was actually a 1-bedroom, but the only one that they had open was an upstairs suite. And at that point, I was already starting to have a lot of troubles doing stairs. There was times I couldn't even get up the 5 stairs into my trailer
Mhm.
at the end of a day. And so I said I couldn't do stairs. And they're like, well,
Mhm.
this is the only one we have open. And even then I was trying to get into what's called Dawnview Apartments, which is a seniors type complex. And of course it was a big no. So it felt like things were starting to move ahead, and then I started getting doors slammed in my face, and I got so frustrated. And I was
Mhm.
so frustrated the one day, and I left work and I was just in tears because I didn't know which way to go, because I knew I couldn't continue um, shoveling snow. I couldn't continue to do a lot of things that I was doing, and I was getting discouraged. And so I ended up going and doing I texted my pastor at the time and I said, can I come and talk to you? And he said, well, I've actually got an appointment right now. Can you come around 4? At least I think that was about the timing, because I was still doing the 2:30 shifts. And I said, yeah, I can do that. So I went home and did a couple of things, and then went over to the church and met with him. I told him what was going on. And he said to me, he says, don't you realize that there's places that you can actually hire people to help with snow removal or help with lawn care and stuff like that? And I said, well, and he mentioned one of the guys that was in our church that used to have, like, he's since retired, but he used to have a lawn care business. Now, for me, I always thought, and I said this to him, I said, I thought that was only for like the big houses and the fancy places.
estates. And
Yeah. Or like there was some of the regular type houses
Mhm.
around town that I would see people at. But I lived in a trailer court. No, I'm not trailer trash because we've got a lot of really nice trailers in our court.
And there are a lot of people who live in trailer courts simply can't afford anything bigger. That does not make a person trailer trash at all.
We actually, Kim, you never actually, well, maybe you did. Right across the street from me and down one, there actually used to be a brought in double wide, brand new trailer that had a addition put on it that was more than one trailer size, that only came like halfway up the trailer. And then they had a 3-car garage. And they had 2.5 lots. And the only reason they moved into a trailer court is because their son had been killed a number of years before, and they didn't want to live in a house anymore. And so they sold their house and had a custom built mobile home put on these lots, and he custom built his shop and everything. They just finally moved too. They had their place up for sale for, I think, almost a year.
Wow.
And they
Wow.
finally got their place sold. And the people that actually bought their mobile home moved it off the lot. And so I got to see one getting moved off instead of one getting moved in. But it just, I didn't think something like that was. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Sounds right. There are people who are trailer trash who live in large homes. Let's just put it that way. Just saying.
Yeah.
I know a few of those people. I'm related to some of those people. Don't tell anyone.
But I didn't think something like that was available for me.
For sure.
And he told me, yes, they're available for anybody. It doesn't matter your income. You can find somebody who can do it for as, like, if you can't afford very much, then maybe you can find someone that can work with you on that and whatever. And so I put out on our community buy sell site asking for someone that would help with snow removal. And there was this beautiful lady who ended up responding. Actually, someone suggested her and she said, yeah, you can get a hold of me. And so I got a hold of her and she was able to come out. I think it was the day after the next one. And we had just had a huge dump of snow, and that's why she couldn't come the next day.
Yeah.
And she came out and they cleaned off my deck, my driveway, which was big enough for 2 cars, my sidewalk, the walkway up to my deck. And it was done within an hour to 2 hours. And she only charged $30 an hour, which for me was pretty reasonable considering the next lowest was $50 an hour.
Wow.
And I couldn't afford that. As it was, $30 an hour was a couple of hours of work myself. So when you put it into perspective like that, and that's how I've had to do things, is put it into perspective of how long do I have to actually work to be able to afford this?
How many of my work hours is it going to cost me to do this, right?
Yeah. And so I ended up getting the lady to come back, and she came. We agreed that, okay, you can come back whenever it snows, come clean everything up, and we're good to go. And so she did that. And at one point I was able to talk to her and asked her what she did in the summer. And she said, well, in the summer I do kind of the same stuff. I do lawn care and garden care or whatever, that kind of stuff that people need help with. And I just about burst into tears because here was someone, and at that point I didn't really want to leave my trailer. I just didn't see any other way. And so she gave me almost another year.
Mm-hmm.
She started in about January or February, and she helped me with most of my fall work the next year before she let me know that she was sorry, but she was leaving this community. And it was for her own good that she was leaving. She was a single mom, and her son was having troubles in the school here, so it was better for them to move.
Mm-hmm.
And she was moving closer to more of her family,
Mm-hmm.
so it made more sense. And
Yeah.
so I lost her, and I'm like looking at the winter going, now what? And I couldn't find anyone else that would charge closer to $30 an hour than 50 or more.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of, the only time that I would get any shoveling done was if it really blew in. And then I'd get my friend T to come over, and he'd bring a snow blower and blow out the snow and everything else. And it just, it helped me a bit. But even as that next year went by, I found that I had no joy even in planting my garden.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the one thing I always looked forward to. When I would see the seeds come in January, I'd be like, oh, goody, the seeds are here. What can I plant? What can I plant?
That's
even
the
though I
face I know. Yep.
and even though I knew exactly what I was going to plant because I always planted the same stuff. But just planning, okay, I'm going to plant this, and okay, it's got to go in this box this year because it was in that box last year, and it can't be in the same box. And and yes, I had a whole system of the carrots were in this box, and then they moved to this box the next year, and then this box the next year,
She's
and on
from a
and on and on.
she's from a farming location, so she knows crop rotation.
Yeah.
It's yep.
And what can be put in boxes together, and
Yep.
what can't be put in boxes right next to each other,
Yes.
and what can be planted in the, like, there are certain things that the next year you can't plant where potatoes were planted the year before,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. So I got to know, okay, which way, and then I cycled through all 7 boxes once I got it set up that way. And I wasn't getting that joy.
Yeah.
And it was becoming even a struggle to do the basics.
Yeah.
And so I started to look into going back and getting all the paperwork filled out and everything for Sask housing again. And so about a year and a half ago, I got a good friend of mine who I was doing some volunteer work for. I asked her if she could get the paperwork from Housing Authority because I was too scared to go down to their offices and get it myself. And so I asked her to get it, and I made sure that she got the emotional support animal forms as well. But this time I did not phone and ask who was eligible to be able to fill out the forms. I went ahead and I figured out how to get the certification for support animals and got that done. I ended up having that signed by a brand new doctor that at that point I had only seen pretty much once. um, I I don't even know if I had seen her personally at that point or not
I
when I
think you
got
told
those
me
filled
you'd
out.
only talked to her on the phone once or twice.
Yeah, I think so. And then I got my counselor, who I've been seeing for over 8 years at that point. She
Mhm.
signed out, she filled out all the forms and stuff and paperwork. And I just, I went through the process of filling out the paperwork. And this time, as I'm filling out the paperwork, everything's falling into place. And it's just all coming together, references come together. And I talked with the court managers, and yep, they would give me a reference. I could use them, and because I had not um rented since I moved to Kindersley. And so I didn't have somebody that I rented from
Mhm.
to do the rental. So I ended up having to have personal
Right.
character references.
And she's quite the character. I can be a reference for that. Hi, Katie.
So I continued to move forward and had all the paperwork ready and filled out and took it in January of 2024 and handed it in thinking I would know by the middle of February that I had been put on the wait list, had been accepted, all of that. 2 months later, I find out that they haven't even put my application towards the board. And by that point, there had been 2 board meetings. I was furious. My
And it was at that point, it was during that period of time between the fall. I reconnected with Krystal via her brother, and we just had a little bit of a hi, how are you doing? Okay, that was it. And then we didn't reconnect again more fully until this process was going on.
I think it was in I think it was probably in like
Okay.
November, December, somewhere in there, I think, or maybe the very first week of January. I had posted, I am so beyond this right now.
I think it might have been the beginning of January. I'm pretty certain I don't remember before Christmas because
Okay,
you and I
yeah, so
had this
probably
very
in
fulsome conversation. It certainly wasn't before Christmas.
and it was Kim was the one that reached out, and she actually messaged me, and I was at work saying, "Give me a call." And I was actually in a spot where I could quickly respond to her, and I said, "I'm at work. I'll call you when I get home." And I called her, and we talked for a couple of hours, and then she had to go and no, it was a couple of hours, and then you had to go and get your daughter
Right.
from work. And
Yes.
then you called me back once you got home, and we talked for another good 5 hours.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. Like,
Yeah.
I guess part of me, I was scared
I know I was.
to
Yeah.
to talk with Kim because I knew her as my oldest brother's girlfriend. And I wasn't quite sure I was ready to be open with somebody who was his girlfriend.
She didn't know where my loyalties would lie, first
Yeah.
of all. I mean, who's to say that, yeah, we broke up because we were in high school. Maybe I was still in love with him, or maybe I didn't ever see him as the person that she knew him to be. Right?
Well, I had, through my mother, heard that
Mm-hmm.
there had been a big falling out between you and my oldest brother. And this was
Yeah.
after you stopped dating him.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, is she gonna be accepting of me? Where's this gonna be? And I
Yeah.
really, but at that point you were the first person that reached out. You were the only person that reached out to find out how I was doing and what was going on, because at that point I was beyond finished.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of February last year, I was making the trek to her place to see her for the first time as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
let me tell you, I was scared.
I was excited. I wasn't scared, but I'm really glad you picked up the courage to do so, because it did take a lot,
Yeah.
just yeah.
And the hard part was I knew I was in the process of losing my good friend, a best friend who had lived in this community. I knew they were getting ready to move to the city, the big city.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, and that was becoming really hard for me to adjust to, because she had been there for so long and we had connected right away, and I was losing that. She was
Mhm.
my person that would help when I went for surgeries or for medical appointments that I
Mhm.
knew I couldn't handle. And I had actually, probably about 4 or 5 months beforehand, had had a supper with her and her husband
Mhm.
and said, "So, how soon are you guys moving?"
Not
And it was,
knowing.
and I guess that kind of ended up opening up the door to, like, the college that he was working at and my alma mater was moving. And so that's why I asked, "So, when are you guys moving?" Thinking, okay, they're gonna head to Calgary, which is not where my alma mater moved to. They moved to
Right.
Regina.
Yeah.
But and they just kind of, yeah, right, okay, whatever. But her family is from Calgary and in Calgary, and I knew that she wanted to eventually move back,
Yeah.
because she had said that when they first got married, was
Mhm.
eventually we'll move back to Calgary. And so that's why I kind of said it. Well, it just kind of went over, didn't really hit anywhere. They're like, well, we'll just stay here because it's the hub of
Oh,
everywhere.
yeah.
And then I guess a couple months later, her husband talked to her and he says, "You really want to go back, don't you?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he used to work for the Bible school that had moved into Calgary a number of years before. So he still had connections through that Bible college as well. And like, he was our pastor for a number of years. But I knew I was losing them. And I
Mhm.
found out for sure shortly after, she had taken me in for one of my surgeries. And it was shortly after that that I found out that they were selling both of their houses and
Mhm.
moving to back to Calgary area. And that was hard for me to take. So I didn't know what was going to happen. So with her leaving and Kim kind of stepping in and saying, "How can I help you?" God provided that person that I found out quite quickly would end up becoming that medical person that I needed. And who did I need to support?
Quickly.
And I didn't
Yeah.
realize how quickly and how much
Yeah.
the support would be needed.
Yeah.
And Kim was the one that brought me into needing a meeting and meeting
Yep.
them. And I kind of was leery going into that. But that's
Within
history
your
now.
first meeting, you were in it like a dirty shirt. It was great.
Yeah, literally couldn't barely talk. Couldn't barely talk because the tears were so.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, eventually sharing and everything and building a family and a community around myself as I continue to fight
All y'all.
yeah, as I continued to fight this system that I felt was cheating me and wasn't working on my timetable. And I figured I needed to be out of my trailer by the end of May of 2024 as my insurance was running up and it was going to be very hard to renew. I wouldn't be able to renew with that company. I would have to find another carrier. Of which I searched and searched and searched and never did find one.
But your trailer court, they allowed you to stick around even without the added insurance, which was such a blessing. I mean, like that's not something that you ever thought they would do.
Yeah. Because every insurance that said that they would cover me, I had to do major renovations onto the trailer that I couldn't afford to do, and that's why I was needing to move as well, because I couldn't afford the extra upkeep that was happening.
Yep. Absolutely.
And
just another.
The trailer just slowly sucked the life out of me, and to the point where I could go. And if I was staying at Kim's place for a couple of days or staying away for a couple of days, I actually felt energy. And I would walk into my trailer and just feel it just. And
Yep.
all I could do was sit there and do nothing. And that's not me. I love to be busy. I love to move. I love to do lots of things. I built the built-ins in my living room and in the trailer, and I built the deck. Had a little bit of help from some guys to do the framing, but I put all the boards on the top of the deck and figured out how I wanted the railings to look, and had to have somebody's help to hold them up while I got them screwed into place. Because I couldn't hold 30 or 40 pounds of lumber up enough to. And they were 8-foot stretches. So,
I know, right?
6-foot stretches. So I couldn't. I needed help with that. And the way I had done it, there was no screws that went straight down into from the top of the riser. So
she had a special design. It was really cool.
Yeah.
So
and
okay.
I built the fence and all of this stuff that I built while I was there. I love building, whether it's blankets, whether it's wood stuff. I love to create, and that was taken from me.
Yeah.
And now I moved.
Yeah.
And some of the fun stuff that has happened is I have had a chance to bring out some of my stuff that I've had in storage for a long time. So my bathroom is now whimsical. You can
It's so
share that.
cute.
You can share the picture.
Okay, hang on. I have to find it first. It's got ducks.
I had. Did you do more than one picture of the bathroom? I can't remember.
I had,
Oh, the other ones wouldn't upload.
yeah, basically I just have one picture of each room
Okay. So
and
the
yeah.
bathroom is pretty much new. The towels are all brand new color. The duck on the toilet, I just picked it up at Dollarama. For it was in with their Easter stuff. And the
Mhm.
shower curtains came in by accident. And
And
so
wasn't that just before you moved, like
yeah,
days?
yeah.
Yeah.
Now
She had been
inside,
asking me, I'm just going to interject here. She had been asking me for a year, Kim, can you paint onto a shower curtain for me? Ducks. And I'm like, well, I could paint it, but it won't last.
yeah.
And look what she got.
It is frosted, where I much prefer a shower curtain that I could have seen out of, so a clear one. But I can say I did not feel closed in being in the shower. So that is a plus.
Yep.
I felt kind of closed in because the tub is small,
Well, yeah.
narrow. But other
Yeah.
than that, but behind the shower curtain, I've actually got duckies that they're actually the tread ones that you're supposed to put on the bottom of a tub,
Yep.
and they got the suction cups to help. But they've got these raised beaks. So when I got them before, I had put them on the wall of my shower. And so they're
Mhm.
actually back up on the wall of the shower in my new place here. And then I have a
Mhm.
ducky soap holder, like bar soap holder, and a tumbler. I don't know if I still have the lotion pump or not. I think that one might have ended up getting broken. So I've had the duckies before. It's just now I can have the whole room as duckies.
It
And
is so
I
cute.
have a valance that I had made because over the sink in the trailer was a small window. And I
Mhm.
brought the valance with me, and I will be putting it up in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I
Over your
still,
mirror or something, like, just to make it,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know where it's going. Okay.
it'll be above the mirror.
Okay.
Um, but I just ordered the over the toilet thing and a couple of other
Mm.
storage things so that the bathroom, I can finally get the bathroom figured out completely. Um, my bedroom, I ended up choosing the bigger of the two rooms, and my day bed is in there, and it's
Okay,
kind
she
of,
built that daybed. It's not
yes,
a prefab particle board daybed. That thing is hefty. Oh my word.
it's made with 2x4 or 2x10s and plywood.
Plywood. 3/4 inch plywood, isn't it? Something like that?
Actually, I think that was just the half-inch plywood.
Only half inch, yes. The minimal stuff. Oh,
And
I know, right?
it's got um shelves underneath for the under the bed plastic totes,
Yeah.
and that's got yarn in it. Everything that I built had to be for storage
Yeah.
in one way or another.
And it
Plus,
has saved you so much for this particular move. Like, wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is with building the daybed higher up, it's because I have a hard time getting standing up from chairs that are lower or whatever that's lower. So I wanted something that I could just kind of turn my legs and put them down and slide down to get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be in my bed or in my living room because my living room turned into my bedroom, living everything room.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can thankfully say I have been sleeping in the bedroom and have had no issues, which is amazing because ever since my hysterectomy in 2015, I haven't been able to sleep in my bedroom. I tried for about a month after redoing my bedroom in the trailer, and it got so that the fear was too bad,
Mm-hmm.
and the fear is not there. So I'm so thankful for that.
So thankful. Oh, yeah.
Another huge thing is since 2015, um, I have had to have constant music playing at all times or noise of some sort at all times,
Mm-hmm.
or I freak out.
Mm-hmm.
Since moving, silence is no longer deafening.
Let's show more pictures and quit crying because you're going to make me cry. And we can, but no, honestly, let them see how gorgeous your place is. And we can talk about the differences moving from where you were to where you are. Okay. Um,
So
yeah.
the next one, show the storage room,
Okay.
storage slash fitness room.
That's her fitness room.
Yep, it's also storage room.
It's also storage room. It
Um,
was the easiest. I'm just going to interject here.
okay,
See each of those containers? Each one of those containers has a label on it with what's inside it, what room it goes into, or what even to like which shelf it needs to be on. That's how organized this woman is, right?
well,
So
not
when we were
quite for
moving
what
things,
shelves to go on, but
well, I mean, come on. You had, when I say what shelves to go on, like you had large containers that could only go on the top,
yeah,
right? And like everything was specific to the size, the height, the everything. It was just so easy. You made it so easy to help you move. And it was just beautiful. It was wonderful. And watching her do the floor, like when you take a look at the flooring over there, that's all of those little foam mats that you can buy at like Walmart or wherever, the play mats, right? And she
yeah.
was on the floor, cutting it out, straightening it out, lining it up. The woman, oh
They're
my word.
they're also used as anti-fatigue mats, and that's
Exactly.
why I wanted them in there is because they help cushion the treadmill so that
Hmm.
it's not so harsh on the floor. Plus, with having them on the floor, the shelving units, which are just the 5 shelf resin units that you can
Hmm.
also get at Walmart. I get most of my
Uh-huh.
stuff at Walmart.
Plug.
What can I say?
Yep.
I work there.
It helps that she works there. Yeah.
I see it as I buy from myself.
Absolutely.
we can,
So if you have a
we
wish
can duck
list,
you up.
duck you up. Or tigers. Tigers and butterflies are also two really big things for her. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Um,
Um,
but because I was packing so far in advance, like I've been packing for well over a year.
yeah.
And actually well over 2 years. And I've been downsizing in the process. But I'm
Hmm.
also going to be downsizing again as I unpack totes.
Yeah.
Um, it made it so much easier being able to pack things into totes. Shortly after moving into my trailer, my hot water tank went,
Hmm.
and I had just regular cardboard boxes, and I ended up losing stuff because of that. And so right away, I started changing all of my storage stuff into totes so that I wouldn't ever lose things that way again. And so the totes have been part of my storage system for the last number of years. And
Mhm.
so when I started to pack to move, I knew that, okay, I'll pack into totes, and then the final push will be cardboard boxes. And then I'll know, okay, that's the first stuff that needs to be unpacked, the stuff that I
Mhm.
use most of the time.
Absolutely.
And then
Yep.
the rest I can unpack at a slower process.
Absolutely.
And what I've actually been thinking is I'm gonna end up putting sticky notes
Mhm.
on most of the tubs and
Mhm.
putting a date on them and waiting 6 or 8 months. And if I haven't touched anything in that tote, I will do a quick go through of it and dump it into donations, and away she goes.
Oh, she is my new superhero. Let me tell you.
But it'll be nice because there's some things in some of those totes that I have not been able to display.
Indy wants to know if you have a PO box. Get in touch with Krystal on Facebook
Yeah,
Messenger. She'd be happy. Yeah,
I
and by
can.
she I mean I'm going to speak for her because she
Yes.
can't talk for herself. I am her emotional support redhead. Yes,
I can get you my address and to go.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
There's still a
Uh,
lot of organizing that I need to do, which brings us to which picture?
yes. Do you want the other storage picture?
Sure.
Oh,
Well,
oh no, that's just basically more of the same.
yeah,
Okay.
that's more of the same.
Okay. Two, do you
The
want the
main room.
one,
One.
this one?
So this is looking from my door into my apartment from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And um in the back corner you'll see a shelving unit, and then it's a little hard to see, but you can see my chair just in front of it. That's actually where I'm sitting right now. It's kind of behind the house looking cat tree.
Mm-hmm.
But this is
Yes.
my main room, and it's still in disarray, but it's slowly getting there.
It's a beautiful disarray because now at least there's space around stuff. I
Yeah,
mean, when I was
patches.
first there, it was like chock full. You could barely move. The woman has done so much work. Oh my word, it
and
looks amazing.
and a lot of it is just taking the totes and putting them into the storage room.
But that's more than I would have been able to do for a long time. So, yep, I get
Yeah.
that.
Patches, because there's open spaces now, she's becoming a little bit more stable, and
Mm-hmm.
I made sure to pull out a bunch of her puff balls.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if I have one in arm's reach or not here. No, she's even got one in the bathroom already.
There you go. All right.
But they look like a little pom pom.
Yep.
And she loves them. She'll carry them around, but she's able to play around now. I built her a new cat tree. I got her a new cat tree
Mm-hmm.
that I showed at the beginning.
Yep.
So yeah, it's slowly coming together. The kitchen looks like a disaster, but that's me and my
I have
kitchen.
no idea what you're talking about.
But but it is slowly kind of coming together.
But and in as
Um,
much as that quote unquote disaster, look how organized it is. Like it
yeah,
is organized chaos, but organized chaos.
that's also not showing the counters in the
Meh,
kitchen.
that's highly
That
overrated. Yeah.
that metal shelving is where my um toaster and toaster oven and microwave are sitting, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where they will stay. They are plugged in there. That is where they will hang out while I'm here. It gives me an extra shelf. There is very little
Yep.
reclaim your own business. Okay.
Yeah. The Indigo was telling me about this. So yes, I'm sorry for interrupting
Yeah.
you. Okay. But yeah.
Yeah, I knew I needed to have a shelf because there isn't very much counter space. There's pretty
No.
much enough counter space for my countertop dishwasher, which is a must for me because I do not wash dishes by hand.
Yeah.
The only
Yeah.
way I'll wash dishes by hand is if every dish in the place is dirty and I can't reuse it.
I'm your ESRH, emotional support redhead. Yes.
And it's also got enough room for my frying pan, which is an absolute necessity because
That's
I
right.
fry just about everything.
Yeah. Yes. And of
So,
course, then
yeah.
right in the bottom of the picture there, or in the center of the picture, you see Kitty. That's
Yeah.
Patches, and that's why she's called Patches. Like, look at her.
Uh,
She's a patchwork quilt.
yeah. If I had have given her a name, she actually came with her name. If I had given her a name, her name would have been Faith.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but she already knew to come to Patches. So,
There you go.
but yeah,
Okay.
so that's that. Is there one more picture?
I think that's all of them, but let me just check and make sure. Kitchen, bed, bath, chair, or chair one, chair, storage. Nope, that's all of them. I tried uploading more pictures that she sent. She sent lots of pictures. They were great photos.
You didn't
But my
share
computer
chair.
is deciding. I did share chair. That was this one.
Oh, oh, okay.
That was chair. I have chair one and chair two. The chair two one is the one that wouldn't download.
Oh, okay. The
Grr.
one that actually
Anyway,
shows my corner.
yes, yes. But I do have things that I need to do
Yes.
for the rest of the evening. So thank you so much. I want to grab, I've got 3 starred comments here. So, does Canada have an emotion support animal letter or protective law regarding support service animals? Yes, they do.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Awakened. Sorry?
that was the letter that I had to get from my doctor.
Yeah, that's right. Misha's terrified of turning 25. She's a baby, is what she's saying. She's turning 25 this June. She's a child yet. So, and if I hurt this bad now, oh, I hear you. I hear you. And this is a great question. Barb wants to know, looking back now, do you realize how strong you were despite the frustration you felt and obstacles you overcame to get where you are now? Do you have any idea how strong you really are, my girl? Like,
Um,
really?
sort of, not really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know I've gained a lot of strength over this past year. Um, it's been a very trying year because along with everything with the move and fighting that, I was also fighting a bully at work. And unfortunately, but I guess in some ways, fortunately, I'm in a new place. So that kind of helps. The bully he's not really bullying yet, but he's
He's
pushing
eking his way back.
limits. He's
Yeah.
pushing limits to where he can become a bully again.
Yeah.
And so I'm fighting against that right now.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But hopefully with the new place, I can fight easier.
Mm-hmm.
I've got, I know I have my store manager's support.
Yeah.
And I've also got someone higher up in the company that is a support as well right now.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I'll face it again and
Uh-huh.
continue on. I guess I know I'm strong because I had to be
Mhm.
for all my years of all 40, oh man,
Something. 40 something years. She's not yet
40,
going to be 50.
I
You're
think it's
46,
46 right now, going to be 47 in June.
but not till
So
June. I mean, like half a year away.
yes, I get
Anyway, my
excited for
friend,
my birthday.
I love you and I need to
Yes.
go. So I will talk to you later. Thank you, everybody,
Thank you, everybody.
for coming, and thank you for your support, your comments, all of that. Um, Therefore, I'm still 39. Absolutely. Have an amazing night, everyone. That's right, Samara. Appreciate that. And I will see you all
Yes.
later. Love you.
Thank you, everybody. Love you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Some come with scars, some come with dreams. In this circle, we're more than what we seem. No judgment here, just voices to be heard. Through laughter, through the tears, we find every word. I'm my brother's keeper, I'm my sister's guide. Standing here together, with nothing left to hide. We lift each other up when the world feels torn apart. We're keepers of the flame, we're the healers of the heart.